I mean, we're talking about more money than you may make in your whole entire lifetime, and I am already there. In fact, I was a millionaire by 25.
Here's how to start at 20 and retire by 30.
So a lot about personal finance is about investing, returns, making money, getting wealthy. But does this do a bit of a disservice to one of the most important areas of personal finance? Control. Having the ability to not worry about money, or at least not very much, to feel confident in where you're going. You know, it's not that look at how nice my holiday is sort of money. It's more that feeling of contentment that you feel like you're on the right track. It's also so much more achievable than a lot of the stuff out there promising that you can retire in your 20s or 30s. So this is 5 steps to financial control. Hi there, my name's George Agan and I'm a chartered financial planner. So today I'm going to be talking over the 5 steps to financial control. The 5 steps you can take to make sure you can manage your finances. So step 1 is to know your cash flow. So this rule is as relevant for a millionaire as it is to someone on minimum wage. Now, I fully appreciate me saying review your spending is probably the most boring thing imaginable, but this is really the starting point. Rule 1 is spend less than you earn on the 3 golden rules of personal finance. And if you can't do this, then you just don't have control of your finances. It's not just about making sure more is coming in than going out. It's about making sure you understand the levels you have of your expenditure. If you know relatively intuitively and consistently the difference between your core, your discretionary, and your lifestyle spending, so what you need to spend, what you choose to spend, and what you'd like to spend, you can see these levels as taps you can turn down or maybe turn up. This gives you control, and you can easily then adjust your savings rate, how much you're saving. It's important to bear in mind when you look at this, your savings rate at the start of your journey is far more important than your investment return. So your ability to manage your finances is crucial about going through the gears to get yourself to a position where you become financially independent. So if you haven't put this together, then now is the best time to start. All it needs to be is just a list of your expenditure. There's a ton to download online. I'll put a couple in the description. Just start having a look through your expenditure. It can be the first point to control, and then you can start to judge whether you're consistent. So number 2 is define your goals and priorities. This is a less specific step, but it's actually undeniably important. You need to understand whether you're saving or investing and what's it for. This could just be to get control of your finances at the start, but you have to have a look at your own situation and understand that what is most important to you. The next 3 steps I'm going to mention are equally important, but the order that you put them in will often depend sometimes on your personal circumstances. But there's a huge difference between having the information to do something and then applying the application to do something. And you should see it as a methodical approach to your goals and priorities as helping yourself understand what's important to you. With any savings, it will take a degree of self-discipline and commitment. So if you make it clear your intention at the start, you have a much better chance of sticking to it. In my video on essential tips to save money fast, I recommend the know why then remind technique towards savings and with your financial plan. And it's just as important through this. In fact, the job of a good financial planner is to make sure when working with someone that we understand what drives them and make sure any planning fully aligns to that. These techniques can be done on an individual basis, just yourself as well. Number 3 is build an emergency fund. So what you're looking at here is for a practical amount to cover emergencies, but also to try and achieve a sleep at night factor, what you're comfortable with. A general guide would be 3 to 6 months expenditure, but the truth is this will very much depend on your own circumstances. For example, someone who has a very steady job in a profession which almost always needs people, say because I work with medical professionals a lot of these roles, while not being guaranteed, are very much in demand, and you can't really envisage a point when a well-qualified medical professional won't be needed. But in contrast, if you maybe have a less secure job, or perhaps a position where you're in a life transition, where you might need capital because of that, potentially a larger emergency fund might be needed. That said, you also need to try and strike the balance between saving and investing, and not getting lost in inertia and having a massive savings account and no real reason for it. So something to really reflect on to make sure you get that balance right. Okay, so the next one is protect against disaster. So what would happen to you if you were able to work over the medium to long term? How would your finances hold up? Or how would maybe your family cope? The one thing I would say is that sometimes people can say, well, my family would just look after me. But just be wary of that. Of course they probably would if they needed to. But how would you really feel if they were almost running out of money as they had to pay for your inability to work? Would that be something you'd be comfortable with? Having control of a position is often about minimizing the downside so you can work on the upside. There is a great statement which is, don't insure what you can easily replace, and I kind of agree with that. So, can you replace your ability to work if you're ill from the long to medium term? Probably not. Well, the idea is you can outsource that risk, and often at quite reasonable cost. Trust me, it's well worth doing, and for me personally, it's a key part of my overall financial stability. I'd always suggest getting advice specific to you as well to make sure it is actually right for you. And the final one is pay down high interest debt. So you may have noticed I didn't say all debt, so I'm not really saying mortgage here apart from perhaps in very specific circumstances, and I'm also not saying a student loan. I'm talking about what would be considered bad debt. This is high interest debt. There is a simple reason for this that I put through in the 3 golden rules of personal finance, which is maths. And I gave a conservative estimate of future expected returns from shares using Vanguard's assumption. They said about 5.5% going forward. We'll see. Anyway, the average credit card interest rate is over 20% at the moment. So it's simple maths. You will be way behind if you're paying out that much in interest, and there is no point investing in something that could be volatile when it's likely to make your overall position better just by paying off the debt. So as you can see, you need to take a step back and think about your overall net worth and what would be the best for your overall position. Because steps 3, 4 and 5 could arguably be interchangeable depending on your circumstances, debt levels, etc. And as always, if debt is a real problem, I'll put a link in the description to some organisations who can help you with that. So the main thing I want to stress here is that financial independence will likely take decades, but for most, financial control, which is the foundation of this, and is often a key to living a more stress-free life, is in grasp for all of us. So I hope you found that helpful. This has been Principles Personal Finance. I really appreciate you watching. I'll see you next week.